The restaurant breathed luxury in quiet, practiced ways. Crystal chandeliers hung low like frozen stars, scattering light across white linen and polished silver. Soft jazz slid between tables, smooth enough to ignore, expensive enough to notice. The kind of place where voices never rose too high, where laughter was controlled and meant to be heard by the right people. Money didn't shout here, it hummed. At table 7, Victor Hale leaned back in his chair as if the room belonged to him. His jacket lay draped over the chair beside him, a watch heavy enough to look like it could sink. He spoke loudly, confidently, the sound of a man accustomed to being listened to. Honestly, he said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass, people talk about luck like it falls from the sky. I built everything from nothing. His guests nodded, smiling on cue. One checked his phone, another laughed half a second too late. When Victor snapped his fingers, the sound cut through the air. Mara was already moving toward the table, balancing a tray with practiced ease. Her steps were light, measured, almost silent against the marble floor. She wore the same uniform as the other servers, black skirt, white shirt, but it hung on her differently, sleeves rolled up as if she were ready for work that demanded more than carrying plates. A faint bruise peeked out just above her wrist, yellowed at the edges, trying to fade. Yes, sir, she asked. Victor didn't look up. Water. Sparkling. And tell the chef the steak better be worth what I'm paying. I will, Mara said, already turning. She returned quickly, setting the glass down without a sound. As she did, Victor's eyes finally lifted. They traveled from her face to her hands, then paused at the bruise. His mouth curled. That from dropping a tray? He asked. Mara followed his gaze, then met his eyes. No, he chuckled. Ah, life dropping you instead. The men at the table laughed. Not cruelly, they would later tell themselves. Just humor. Just an observation. Mara straightened. Would you like anything else? Victor tilted his head, studying her now like an object whose value he was assessing. You know, he said, voice loud enough for nearby tables, I always wonder how people end up like this. Long hours, bad shoes, tips you have to smile for. He gestured vaguely around her. If hard work paid, you wouldn't be here. She held his gaze. Her expression didn't change, but something tightened in her jaw. I'll bring your appetizers, she said. Victor reached into his pocket and slid a coin across the table. It spun once, clinked softly against the glass. Here, for practice. Learn how money sounds. The laughter this time was louder. For a brief moment, the room seemed to narrow. Mara felt the heat climb her spine, the familiar burn behind her eyes. The old instinct stirred, clench, react, strike back. Her fingers twitched, remembering ropes, gloves, the sharp smell of sweat and iron. She picked up the coin. It was light, cheaper than it looked. She turned it once between her fingers, then placed it carefully back in front of him. You'll need it more than I will, she said quietly. Victor raised his eyebrows. Did you just enjoy your meal? Mara said, already stepping back. As she walked away, Victor's voice followed her. Smile, he called. It's part of the job. She didn't turn around. Behind the swinging doors of the kitchen, the noise changed. Heat, steam, the sharp rhythm of work. Plates clattered, orders were shouted. Mara leaned briefly against the counter, breathing in through her nose, out through her mouth. Slow. Controlled. You okay? Asked Lena, another waitress, glancing at her wrist. Fine, Mara said. Lena lowered her voice. That guy's a jerk. Don't let him get to you. Mara nodded, but her eyes drifted back toward the dining room, toward table 7. Victor was laughing again, miming the size of something with his hands, fully at ease. Men like him always were. She thought of the gym, of cracked mirrors and torn mats, of girls learning to keep their guard up. Of the coach's voice telling her pain was information, not a sentence. Of the first time she'd stepped into the ring with fear buzzing louder than the crowd. Mara picked up the next tray and went back out. She served the appetizers flawlessly. Plates placed just so, wine poured without a spill. Victor barely acknowledged her now, already bored, already certain of his place in the world. As she cleared the table, he leaned back and said to his guests, see. Invisible. That's the trick. People like that fade into the background. Mara paused for half a second. Then she smiled, not the smile he wanted, not the empty curve meant for tips, but something smaller and sharper. Something that lived behind her eyes. She carried the plates away. At the service station, she set them down, hands steady. The coin sat heavy in her apron pocket now, somehow louder than before. She closed her fingers around it once, then let go. The night wasn't over yet. The mood in the restaurant shifted as evening deepened, as if the walls themselves knew something was coming. Tables were rearranged, candles replaced, and the soft jazz gave way to a low, expectant murmur. This was no longer just dinner, it was performance. Cameras appeared, sleek and black, moving like insects on quiet feet. A banner near the entrance announced the charity gala in elegant script, the kind that promised generosity without ever mentioning sacrifice. Victor Hale stood near the bar now, jacket back on, posture open and confident. He greeted donors with the same firm handshake, the same practiced smile. The earlier incident had already dissolved in his mind, filed away as something insignificant. People like him were used to forgetting people like her. Mara watched from the edge of the room. She had changed. The apron was gone, replaced by a simple dark top and fitted pants, clothes meant for movement rather than service. Her sleeves were still rolled up. The bruise on her wrist was more visible now, and she didn't bother hiding it. She stood with her weight balanced, feet planted in a way that came from habit, not thought. When the host tapped the microphone, the room quieted. Glasses were lowered. Faces turned. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host said, smiling a little too tightly, "thank you for being here tonight to support programs for youth development and opportunity." Applause rippled politely. Victor stepped forward, accepting the microphone as if it had always been meant for his hand. "We all have a responsibility," he said, voice warm, generous, "to give back. To lift those who haven't had the chances we've had." Mara felt something twist at the word chances. As Victor spoke, cameras flashed. He mentioned numbers that drew impressed murmurs, amounts large enough to sound heroic, small enough to be comfortable. When he finished, the applause was louder, more sincere. "And now," the host said, hesitating, "we have a brief addition to the program." Victor frowned slightly. That wasn't on the agenda. The host glanced toward the side of the room. "A demonstration, requested by one of our guests." Mara stepped forward. A few people recognized her from earlier and exchanged confused looks. Victor stared at her, irritation flickering across his face. "This is inappropriate," he said under his breath. Mara took the microphone. It felt light in her hand. "You talked about lifting people," she said, voice clear, carrying. "I want to show you how." A trainer emerged, rolling a heavy bag across the floor. Its surface was cracked, scarred by years of use. It looked out of place among the crystal and silk. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Phones were raised. "I volunteer at a gym," Mara continued. "Not a fancy one. A place where girls go when the world teaches them they're small." She glanced down briefly, then back up. "We teach them how to take a hit. And how to stand." She set the microphone down. The trainer steadied the bag. Mara stepped in front of it, tying her hair back with a strip of cloth. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency as she wrapped them, layer by layer, knuckles disappearing beneath white tape. Each motion was muscle memory, old and comforting. Victor laughed once, sharp and dismissive. "This is a joke." Mara didn't look at him. She took her stance. The first punch landed with a sound that cut through the room. Not a slap. A crack. The bag lurched. The second came faster, then the third. Her body moved as one unit, hips turning, shoulders snapping, breath controlled. Each strike carried weight far beyond her size. The bag swung hard now, chains rattling. The room went silent. She stepped in, unleashed a combination that flowed like water and fire at once. Knuckles thudded, feet shifted, her breath hissed with each impact. Years of training burned through her muscles, through the memory of every fall, every bruise, every moment she'd been told she didn't belong. The bags seemed strained. Sand leaked out, sprinkling onto the marble floor like spilled time. Someone gasped. Mara finished with a final strike, clean and devastating. The bag tore open. Sand poured out in a rush, the bag collapsing inward, empty and broken. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the applause exploded. It wasn't polite. It wasn't controlled. It was raw and loud, echoing off the walls. People stood. Cameras flashed wildly. Phones shook. Mara stepped back, chest rising and falling, sweat shining on her skin. She turned and faced Victor. He looked different now. Smaller, somehow. His smile was gone, his mouth slightly open, eyes fixed on the ruined bag as if it had betrayed him. "You said money makes noise," Mara said calmly, picking up the microphone again. "You're right." She gestured to the torn bag, to the sand staining the floor. "So does strength." She walked toward him. Each step was steady. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the coin. The same one. She held it up so the cameras could see, then dropped it into the donation box beside the stage. The sound was soft. Almost nothing. "For practice," she said. The applause surged again, louder than before. Victor said nothing. He couldn't. Mara stepped down from the stage and walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop her. The doors opened, and cool night air rushed in, washing away the heat, the noise. Outside, the city hummed, honest, unpolished. Mara paused for a moment, flexing her hands, feeling the familiar ache in her knuckles. She smiled then, to herself. Behind her, inside the glowing restaurant, Victor Hale stood frozen, surrounded by wealth and witnesses, learning far too late the sound of being wrong.